Okay, the fruit I'm about to show you is on fire. And guess what it is? It's papaya. Hi, I'm Debbie. Welcome to Vintage Food Farm. Today I am going to show you the most amazing fruit to grow in the tropics. And when I say fruit, it is definitely a fruit, but it can be used as a vegetable, in salads, in stews, in soups. It can be used for cutting up and using in a dip. So it is very versatile, very flexible, very fast to grow, and we love it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you a few different papaya. It's not actually a tree, but I'm going to call it a papaya tree because if I say I won't, I will. It's a papaya plant. It's actually a massive herb, but because I don't trust myself, I'm just going to call it a papaya tree right from the start. So I'll show you a few different stages of papaya trees around the block. So this first papaya tree that I'm going to show you is our most advanced. It's probably 12 months old, maybe a little bit less, and we're already getting fruit off it every couple of days, but I'll show you. So you can see all the green papaya up there. You'll see a little bit later in this video where Tim picks one of the red ones ready for us. You can see that there are different branches that are coming off this main hollow wooden stem. Absolutely beautiful. So these leaves are also edible. I haven't eaten them, but people put them in soups and stews and stir fries. I will try it one day. You can see this branching off has got fruit on it as well. Now, because we have so much water and so much nutrients, I'm just going to let it branch off and see if we can actually sustain more than the one core branch. And the other reason I want to do that is if it gets too tall, you can actually just, I'll show you. So if this tree got too tall, which they do get very, very tall, we could actually just chop it off here and let it just rely on these offshoot branches. Such a stunning plant. There's nothing that makes you feel more like you're in the tropics than papaya. Now that brings me to another subject, and that is the difference between a pawpaw and a papaya. And it's different depending on where you live in the world. In Australia, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say that most Australians would say that a pawpaw is more of a rounded yellow papaya looking thing, and a papaya is the longer version, which can come in red or orange or whatever. If you were overseas, a pawpaw, say in the US, is actually a completely different fruit. So technically, pawpaws and papayas are all varieties of papaya. But in Australia, we do separate a pawpaw from a papaya. A pawpaw seems to be a little bit funkier, it's usually yellow and rounder, and a papaya is usually longer and sweeter, and sometimes easier for people to eat that really don't like pawpaw. So moving along here, we have some more just young papaya that were planted a few months ago. And when I say planted, oh yeah, these ones we did plant. We actually chucked seeds in pots, grew them and then planted them. Then I put papayas in the middle of all the garden beds because we realised, I'll show you, that in the garden bed where the papayas were getting bigger, so you can see in this bed that just the massive bulkiness of the root system is helping to keep the soil levels up. So this is one that we've planted in a bed with some asparagus and nasturtiums. And then over here we have 3 because I really wanted to push our luck and see what we could do. And you can see So pretty. And we're getting some fruit on these ones. Look how high that is. That's just crazy. So with the papaya, we'll eat these ones first, and then as they grow, they ripen and go up the tree, so we get fruit supplied virtually all year. Here's another big one that's just starting to fruit. That's in the herb garden with all the rosemary and mint, lemon, basil. Here in the spring onion bed with sawtooth coriander, we've got another one. And you can see all the fruit starting to come up on that. These ones I have to pull out. So I've thrown lots of seeds around, so lots of pawpaw are just coming up everywhere. So the other thing about pawpaw is the question about male, female, hermaphrodite, bisexual. So if you can, it is a lot easier to get a bisexual or hermaphrodite plant because you don't need to rely on having multiple plants to cross-pollinate. So the male plant needs to fertilise the female plant in order to get the fruit. With the bisexual or hermaphrodite plant, the flower contains a male and a female part, so it fertilises itself, so you don't need to rely on other plants. Just look how pretty those flowers are. And you can see a tiny little fruit coming out of a flower there. So the way that we ended up with over 100 papaya trees is we just bought papayas from the supermarket or the market, I'm not sure, and took the seeds out, threw the seeds down, threw some in pots, threw some in the ground, and they just kept coming. And then once we had those ones and we grew our own papayas, then we took the seeds from those papayas. You might have heard that you need a male or a female papaya tree to fertilise each other. The ones, so definitely Skyberry, which is the main papaya grower in Australia, but even across the world, most of the papayas that you get in the shops are bisexual. So you can just buy one, use those seeds and grow some trees, and then take the seeds from your papaya and just keep growing as many as you think you'll need. We need a lot because we have to feed all of our chickens, so I can't see a point where we've got too many papaya. The other thing I really love about papaya is the shadows and the light that they cast in the garden. They're just so lush and so green, so beautiful. So when we talk about what we call a papaya or a pawpaw in Australia, this is what I would have called a pawpaw. So it's rounder. This is only a small one. It's rounder. It has yellow flesh, and it definitely has a funkier taste. So one of the things that we learnt really early on with growing papayas was that they need to be behind a fence. So when we first moved in, we planted a whole lot of papaya just around the whole block, and every single one of them got eaten down to the base by kangaroos and wallabies. So we have to put our papaya behind fences unless we can grow them high enough, like this, so that the wallabies don't eat them. I don't know why they don't just, chomp into the bottom of the trunk. When they eat a small papaya from the top, they eat all the way through the trunk, but they just tend not to. So if we can grow them in a pot until they are big enough to plant out into this main block, then we can grow papaya outside the fence. But for the most part, it is easier to grow it behind a fence or to use a wire cage around it. I'll show you. So you'll see here, so this one's okay because it's big enough to survive. They might get the bottom leaf, but that one's survived. And then these little ones here have to have this cage around them or they will eat them. And then this bigger one would actually be okay for me to take the cage off now. So everything that we plant in the vegetable garden is basically for our food. We've also planted some papaya in the chicken runs so that it's like a self-feeding system. When the papaya get ripe, they will just fall off of the tree onto the ground and the chickens can eat them. So in here, I'll show you what papayas we have going. So this is one we just planted today. The wire cage is only there just to hold it up while it's just a little bit weak when it first gets planted. This one here is looking a bit sad to start with, but it will come back. It got eaten the top off of by a wallaby. This is another one that we planted today. And then these are some that we planted probably, say, 6 months ago. And they've just started to really take off now. So these were we just threw seeds in the ground. We didn't bury them or anything. And now you can see these ones. Look, that's starting to flower now. So we'll get papaya on these very soon. And then there's more over here. This one looks like it's not quite got enough sun. You can see it's a little bit spindly, probably because it's under all these gum trees. And then I'll show you how easy it is to grow papaya seeds. So we literally just scoop out a papaya, eat the papaya, and then throw the seeds down wherever we want. And this is what happens. So all of these were just thrown in here. These are all like 100 tiny little baby papayas. And I will just dig them up and plant them somewhere else. So if you just pull that out like that, bare rooted, and then you can just pop that in a pot or pop it in the ground somewhere. It will die off a little bit and then it will come back perfectly. So I have this disorder where I can't waste a seed or a seedling. So some people with papayas will say, throw down 100 seeds, see what comes up, cut down the weaker ones and keep the strong ones. I can't cut them down. I have to take them out, put them in a glass of water and plant them somewhere else. Hello chickens. This is so exciting because this is a silver Sussex laying an egg and this will be like her second day of laying. I'm not going to disturb her because she might get scared. So that's the papaya that we have growing in the chicken runs so that we have a self-feeding papaya system for our chickens. In about probably a month we should start getting papaya on those bigger plants. So as you can see, our papaya in the vegetable garden are already pretty tall. They're too tall to reach with your hand and they are only going to get taller and taller. When they get too tall, we'll actually cut them down so that we bring the fruit lower. But Tim is going to show you how to make the easiest papaya picker. We're only using it on a broomstick at the moment because our trees are still within reach. If they get too much higher, we will go and get the extendable painting pole and we'll do the same thing with that so that we can reach up even higher. So Tim is going to show us now how to make the quickest, easiest, cheapest papaya picker.
G'day. So to make your papaya picker, what you want is an old soft drink bottle. I've got a 2 litre bottle here. A knife, because we're going to cut that bottle down. I've got a couple of cable ties. I just like to add a bit of extra security when I put it onto the pole. Of course, I've got my pole here. And I also use a bit of duct tape. So you can use gaffer tape, duct tape, whatever you want, just at the end, again, to add that little bit more security. What you want to do, take your bottle, take your knife, and cut off about the bottom third of your bottle. There we go. Now we push that onto the pole. This pole's really good. It's a good size because it actually fits in there really tight. But again, for a bit of extra security, I'll add my 2 cable ties. And I'll pull them really, really tight in. That's really good, that one. Just trim that one up. And again, just to help everything stay in place, I'll run some gaffer tape just over the join between the soft drink bottle and the pipe. Once more around. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. And there we have it, our homemade papaya picker. Now, best of all, let's go give it a try. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Just for 5 minutes put together, and look at that.
So we are going to go and plant some papaya. So these are plants that I planted a few weeks ago, and they were probably about 20 centimetres high, and in a few weeks they get to this size. Once they start to grow, they just grow really quickly. So there's a big factor that determines where you plant a papaya, and that is how soft the ground is. Hello, Sheila. So this is another thing you'll notice. Whenever you dig a hole and you have chickens, the chickens think that you're digging it up for them to get worms. So it's actually a little bit tricky to plant anything when the chickens are out. at those roots. That's only a few weeks old, and that's definitely ready to come out of the pot and get planted. I'll show you this papaya in a few weeks and show you how much it's actually grown. It's pretty incredible. I'm telling you, it is not easy with chickens. And then we'll just leave this leftover dirt here in a ball, and the chickens will pull it apart and get all the bugs out of it. Look at the size of that worm. So this is the papaya that Tim just picked. Absolutely beautiful, perfectly formed, red, skyberry child papaya. Can I just do this, please? So I'm just gonna give the rest of this one to the chickens. I don't need to cut it up, I'm just doing that so that some of them get it that are lower on the pecking order, so I spread it out everywhere. Chuk, 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 chuk. And this is why we can never have too many papaya, because they will eat it and it's so good for them. So this is where you can see the difference. This is only a tiny one, but you can see this is in Australia what we would call a papaya. This is what we would call a pawpaw, so it's much rounder, even though this is a small one. But technically they are all papaya. They're just different variations of papaya. So this one is the one that you saw Tim pick, and I'll just cut that in half and show you. So really beautiful colour, very sweet. These seeds are fully developed, so they are able to be planted and they will turn into new papaya trees. Now this one just has a little bit of colour on it, just a blush of colour. And you can see that it's not as red, but it does have some colour to it. And then this is the fully green papaya. You'll also see that that one doesn't have any seeds in it, and I think that may be a female pawpaw, but I'm not quite sure why it doesn't have seeds. I think it might be just like some crazy moment. And then this is the green papaya. It's got a tiny bit of blush in it, and you can see that some of the seeds are not formed yet. Such a beautiful fruit. So this one you would use to eat as a fruit. It's sweet, it's beautiful. You could have that with some yogurt for breakfast. You can just eat it. Tim will just pick one off the tree and eat it. This one here, which has got a slight bit more ripeness, you could use that in replacement for a carrot stick to dip into dip, or in replacement for cucumber in a salad. You could cut it up and put it into an Indian curry or a Thai curry or a Sri Lankan curry. And then this one you can also cook, and you could replace zucchini or any sort of choco or I don't know, any sort of melony type vegetable you could replace with this. And the other thing that you can do is to get yourself one of these. I'll just... I'm cutting off a bit too much, but just for demonstration purposes. And then you can use that to make a Thai papaya salad, green papaya salad, or you can actually cook these as well and use them as a noodle replacement. That didn't go well. That's better. There we go. So you can actually cook these, and you could put them in a laksa, or you could put them in a tom yum soup instead of having noodles at all. The other thing, if you don't have one of the fancy Asian spaghettiers or noodlers, you could use just an old school grater, or you can use like an electric, just any brand of, and that's probably the best for doing noodles, but you could cut it to any shape and use it. So one of the things that took me a little while to get into my head living in the tropics was that we couldn't grow normal fruit and vegetables. But once you change your mindset and you know all the recipes that you know how to cook all the meals that you know how to cook, all the different nationalities, all the different flavours, then you grow tropical fruit and vegetables and you just swap them in and out. You learn all the different things that you can use tropical vegetables for and fruit, and often it's a case that you can use a fruit as a vegetable and that it's interchangeable, but it just is really freeing to know that you don't have to have a standard cucumber, you don't have to have a standard carrot or a standard celery. There are tropical replacements. There are probably more tropical fruits and vegetables than there are normal fruits and vegetables, and it's really exciting, and it takes a little bit of getting used to because you're used to the flavours that you're used to, but I'll tell you what, once you start growing tropical fruit and vegetables, you just really, I don't know, they just taste so fantastic. We've got all this beautiful sunshine, all this beautiful water, and the heat and the humidity, and it produces some really great produce. And that is it. That is the end of our papaya tour here in beautiful tropical Far North Queensland. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed showing you. Don't forget, if you feel like it, and only if you feel like it, like and subscribe. But most importantly, stay calm in the farm.